Hello, welcome back to the channel and the latest figure battle featuring Masters of the Universe Origins King Hiss going up against Transformers Legacy Skullgrin. And you may wonder why I'm putting a MOTU Origins figure against the Transformer. Well, let me elaborate. You see, each of these characters was first released as a toy back in the 1980s, and originally each of them had a very similar gimmick. The original King Hiss was first released in 1986, and that figure had an upper body that was able to split apart and some arm covers that could be removed to reveal a serpentine body underneath. The original version of Skullgrin was released in 1988 as part of the Transformers Generation 1 Pretenders range. All the Pretender figures shared a similar gimmick. There was an outer shell, in the Decepticons' case, mostly monsters, that could split into two pieces and reveal a transforming robot disguised inside the shell. In the case of both these modern figures, those original gimmicks have been removed and reimagined. So what we're going to do today is take a look at each of these figures and determine which is the better update of the original. King Hiss, the dreadful disguised leader of the Snake Men, is a deluxe Origins figure, so he comes on the larger card back to accommodate the extra accessories. We have the new MOTU Origins logo up here for the Snake Men, and the Snake Men logo sticker on the bubble. We have the blurbs here, modern posing retro play, that's come on all the Origins figures. And this is obscured by the comic, but it says, change into a seething mass of serpents. Well, that sounds fun. On the back of the card, we get the usual piece of artwork. This art shows, I believe, Snake Armor He-Man battling King Hiss in his transformed form. So underneath his human guise, there's all these different serpents that make up his body. Shows you how the features work on this side. And then we have the cross-cell with the other Snake Men. Ratlore, Cobra Khan, and then we have Thunder Punch He-Man, Snake Armor He-Man, and Boltman from the Sunman series. For accessories, King Hiss comes with his snake staff and his snake shield, a replacement set of serpent arms, and a replacement serpent head for his transformation, along with the standard Origins instruction sheet showing you which parts are removable, along with his mini-comic, which is called Heart of the Snake. And fortunately, I did get the US release of this figure, so the mini-comic does contain the text for the story, which is usually removed from the international versions. King Hiss has all the usual articulation that we see on MOTU Origins bodies. He can clip that shield onto his left forearm and hold the snake staff in his right hand. To transform him into a snake form, we remove the arms and the head. Now this chest is a flexible vest type piece, which is held on by two buckles on either side. So to get this off, we just unclip those two buckles, and that reveals the snake body underneath. Now we take all those snake parts and attach it to the body, like so. And I think this new style of King Hiss is more intimidating than the original one from the 80s. With making these snake arms separate limbs, they are now larger and more intimidating than the original figure was. And I also like the new head sculpt on that head snake. One thing I would have liked is if either one or both of these snake arms, since they're separate pieces, they could have been constructed with open mouths, so that you could have some fangs and a tongue on them, and maybe they could have held the weapons as well. Skullgrin comes in the standard Legacy packaging, which is not quite the plastic-free packaging that Hasbro has been pushing out lately. There are some plastic ties holding the figure in place there. On the front of the box, we get an illustration of his vehicle mode. And on the back, a photo of both his robot mode and vehicle modes, which tells us that it takes 20 steps to transform him. And you'll notice this QR code on the back. If you scan that into your phone, it brings you to a website where you get the character's bio and tech specs. So just like they had on the original Generation 1 packaging, it is now a QR code that brings you to virtual tech specs. Honestly, I'd rather just have the tech specs on the back of the package, but with Hasbro constantly shrinking their packages and adding more and more multilingual and legalese text, there's just no room for it. So I guess the virtual tech specs are better than nothing. The only accessories that Skullgrin comes with are these two gun/sword weapons that are identical, very similar to his Generation 1 weapons. And of course, he does come with a full instruction sheet. Skullgrin has all the usual articulation of modern Transformers. He's got a full range in his shoulders, elbows, hips, and knees. One thing I do notice about this figure, I know modern toys have to comply to certain safety standards, but every single point on this figure, all the bony points and horns, are made of a softer PVC plastic. Even his weapons, which are these blunted swords, these wouldn't hurt anyone if they were made from rigid plastic, but they're pliable. So I think this is safety standards going a little bit too far. Using all this PVC material in Transformers, I think, is a bad idea. Transformers are so finely engineered that all the pieces need to clip and latch together securely, and that just doesn't happen with this soft plastic. His two weapons can be held in his hands like blasters, or they can peg under his forearms to be used as sort of bayonets, or you can use the alternate handles on them so he can wield them like swords. On the back of the figure is his vehicle tank turret, but the guns on the turret are removable, and those can be held in his hands or pegged to his shoulders. The sword weapons can also peg into that turret to give him an alternate look, and it is possible to combine the two weapons when they're pegged together like this. So you do have quite a few weapon options for displaying this figure. Hasbro previously released this smaller version of Skullgrin as a Prime Master in their Power of the Primes line. So if you wanted to, Skullgrin could also wield a smaller version of himself as a weapon. Here is Skullgrin in his alternate mode, and just like the Generation 1 original, he is a kinda, sorta Cybertronian mode tank thing. He's got some treads back here, the blades go on the sides, turret on the top. The problem with the original Pretenders was mostly their vehicle modes. Because you had to fit the robot inside the plastic shell, there wasn't a lot to work with in regards to transformation. So a lot of the vehicle modes for the original Pretenders were pretty nondescript and pretty unimpressive. And this sort of emulates that original Generation 1 tank mode that Skullgrin had. Would have liked to have seen them maybe update this a bit and give him more of an impressive alt mode that didn't have all these sort of gaps in the vehicle there, just to accommodate the fact that this is an homage to the original. It's okay to update things. What they've done with these reimagined Pretenders in the Legacy line is to combine elements from the original outer Pretender shell with the robot that was hiding inside the shell to make sort of hybrid figures. And although they are more articulated than the old Pretender shells, which only had 2 points of articulation, those old Pretenders were pretty large and intimidating. And even without articulation, they did make a nice display on the shelf. I think you lose a little bit of that intimidation with these smaller modern pretenders. Now it's time to decide a winner. Which of these updated gimmick toys comes out on top? It looks like Skullgrin has been snake bitten. Comparing the updates of the two figures, I think King Hiss is the better update over his original 80s toy. His snake form is bigger, bulkier, and looks more powerful than the original, and I think Skullgrin loses a lot in the translation of losing his pretender shell and incorporating it into the robot. So King Hiss takes this battle. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.